everybody, welcome to the episode number 2 of Blindspots. I am your host, Jordan Anderson, and I have my guest, Sol Govin. How's it going, Sol?
Going good. How are you?
I'm doing great. Yeah, this is my second live stream for today. I had one earlier that went over 2 hours long. So for my other channel, Tier Ranker Fights. So that was fun. We went and ranked some desserts. So that's kind of a little one off the beaten path. Usually we're ranking movies and stuff out of pop culture, but we wanted to kind of mix it up a little bit. So
nice.
Yep. So, but yeah. So the movie that we're gonna be talking about today, as you can see, is Goodfellas. So Goodfellas was a huge hole on my blind spot list. So when I put up the poll over in the Get Sweaty Facebook group, I had people vote on it, and Goodfellas just kind of shot right up to the top of the list. A lot of people were surprised that I hadn't seen this movie before, because it's definitely like considered one of the classic movies when you think of like mobster, gangster type of movies. It's kind of right up there, like just below The Godfather. I feel like you have Godfather and you have Goodfellas, just like right up there with it. So, but yeah. So I'm just gonna break down on the synopsis, and then we'll kind of just go back and forth, give our pros and cons, things we like, things we maybe didn't like so much about the movie, and
I was actually one of those who voted for Goodfellas on there because I really like the movie.
Oh, nice. Yeah. And I have a second one that I got to watch for next week. I'll just announce it. We're going to be doing the movie Predator from 1987. So that's going to be my next one I got to watch this week. So I'm watching one a week for this. So yeah. So that should be fun, though. I'm looking forward to that one. But Goodfellas, it was released in 1990. It's the true story of a young man that grows up in the mob and works very hard to advance himself through the ranks. He enjoys his life of money and luxury, but is oblivious to the horror that he causes. A drug addiction and a few mistakes ultimately unravel his climb to the top. And the movie is based on the book called Wise Guys by Nicholas Pileggi.
And he's also the writer of the movie as well.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Yeah. I actually even forgot about that. Yeah, but yeah. So I'd like to play a little quick game with all my guests here. So I'm going to have you try to see if you can guess what the Rotten Tomatoes score was from the critics. What do you think that they gave Goodfellas?
So I want to guess high, but who knows? Because sometimes even movies that are beloved now don't get as high as a rating. So I'm going to be safe. 87%.
Ooh, you're close. So they went a little higher than that. They actually have it rated at a 96%. So they have it almost perfect.
That's not close. That's almost 10 points.
Well, still, like, I mean, it's better
it deserves to be in the 90s, but I'm going to play it safe.
Right. So we have the critic score at 96. Do you think the fan score was higher or lower than the critic score? I mean, that's pretty high. So
that's pretty high. It only leaves 4 points.
Yep.
I'm probably going to be wrong, but let's say lower.
No. So they actually rated it higher. So they have it at
100.
No. They have it at a 97, so just 1 point higher. So
okay. I was like, it's probably like right at or right below, but I get it. It's just one above.
Yep. Yeah. So I mean, the fans pretty much thought the same thing as the critics, basically. So I mean, but Goodfellas. It stars Ray Liotta playing Henry Hill, Robert De Niro playing James/Jimmy Conway. You have Joe Pesci as Tommy, and then Paul Sorvino playing Paulie, who's the leader of the mob in the movie. And then you have Mike Starr, which you might recognize him. He was in the movie Dumb and Dumber. He played the guy who let's see, like, how would I describe? He's the guy that has the ulcer and ends up having some kind of heart attack from the ulcer. He's the hitchhiker guy that they pick up along the way.
That's one of my blind spots, Dumb and Dumber.
Oh, shoot. Well, for anyone watching, you're probably pretty familiar. I think I've seen Dumb and Dumber at least like 20 times. I've seen it a lot. So he's in it. He plays Frenchie, and then also you have actor Frank Vincent playing Billy Bats, and I just bring up Billy Bats because it's a name that I think Christian Harloff picked up for SEN Live whenever he starts talking about like all those Italian names. So he says Billy Bats. We got Billy Bats over here. So yeah, that always reminds me of him. But
And what happens to his character? It plays a role later in the movie. It kind of comes back.
yeah,
Trying not to spoil, but
yeah, right. Well, it is one thing too. And I want to let everybody know we're going to get into full spoilers here because I mean it's a movie that came out in 1990, so I feel like that's kind of fair game. So I mean, we haven't given any spoilers yet. So if you want to keep watching and you want to enjoy a review that's full of spoilers, then stick with us and have some fun. But if you want to be spoiler free, I'd maybe go watch the movie first and then tune back in probably. So, but yeah. Oh yeah, one of the other actors I wanted to actually mention, the actor. His name's Kevin Corrigan. So he's popped up in a lot of things. So he was in the TV show Grounded for Life. He plays the main guy's brother in that show. He's also one of the henchmen from Pineapple Express, named Bud Lofsky, named after the marijuana, obviously. And then he's also played one of the professors in the TV show Community. And then he also was on the TV show Fringe. He played just like a super smart guy who can kind of predict the future, and he owned a bowling alley. So if you've seen any of those, he's an actor that's actually popped up in a lot of stuff. I was looking at his IMDb page. He's had like about 130 credits, so he's been in a lot of stuff. But he's just never had that starring role. He's always just kind of like a side character. But he's definitely one of those faces you always recognize when you see him. In the movie, he plays Ray Liotta's a brother. So he's in a wheelchair, and there's a scene where he's stirring the pasta just like over and over. So yeah.
And when you do it, you're like, this guy seems familiar. Who is he? And that tends to happen with a lot of actors, is that they never have the leading role, but they have so many credits because they're just that background character in one episode or two episodes of a TV show or in a movie. And that's basically what he was. He was just in a few scenes, probably no more than 5 minutes of the movie.
Yep, exactly.
But you're still like, that guy looks familiar.
Yep, exactly. Just one of those faces, but you can't quite place the name.
Right.
That's why I love IMDb, because I always pull it up and I can't quite place the name. So, yep. And when the movie starts out too, so I loved it from the very beginning. I love seeing all the scenes of Ray Liotta's character when he's a teenager, and you see his parents telling him to go to school, and they find out that he's been skipping school and he's been working with the mob, and he's been just doing all these little favors and all these little errands for the mob, and he's just loving it because he was feeling like a king. They're paying him all kinds of money, even as a teenager. He was just making tons of money, and so he just lied to his parents, and he would just skip school, and he'd be off with the mob, and
the mob took care of it for him, because the one time that they had the note that came home saying that he was skipping school and his dad beat him with the belt.
Yep.
Basically, he's like, oh, I can't be doing this anymore to like Polly, and Polly's like, oh, I'll take care of it. So then they go and like beat up the mailman.
Yeah,
and so
right.
No mail shows up to the house anymore. And there was even like, my mom went to the post office to go complain. And it's just those like little funny things that the mob always like had an answer for every like problem that he ended up having in his life, because he was with them from like, I think he started at 13 was what it said in the beginning of the film.
Yeah, and for me, I always end up being one of those like super annoying people to watch movies with, because I watched it with my wife, and she's seen it before, but I hadn't seen it, so I'm asking all these questions like, what's going to happen here? Why are they going after the mailman? What did he do? And then she's like, just watch it, you'll see. Just quiet. Or like there's a scene near the end where the helicopter keeps following him, and
the iconic scene, the scene that like everyone talks about, where if you want to see anxiety on screen, is just that scene where he's driving and the helicopter's following him.
Yep, exactly. Because like I'm just like seriously, what's up with this helicopter? What's the deal? What's going on? And then my wife is just like, shush, like just watch. you'll see. So it's like, all right, I'll just wait and see. But so I really liked the movie when it started. But I gotta be honest though, like after the scenes when he was a teenager, I kind of thought that the movie got a little slow. That's just me personally. Just in the very beginning, maybe the first 10 minutes or so, just kind of like, all right, this movie needs to pick up. But boy, does it ever pick up? I mean, like it just takes off quick, and so I'm just like, all right, like all the worries that I had, this was going to be a slow movie, that are just out the window, because just like, especially his relationship with Joe Pesci in the movie. Joe Pesci is absolutely crazy in this movie, like just like completely insane. Like he just makes friends with all these different people
Bad
in the
guys,
movie.
basically.
Yeah, yep, and then he goes around shooting everybody. So you think he's like best friends. They're just having a nice Sunday dinner, or they're having coffee, and then all of a sudden, boom, he just like pops some guy like in the chest or something. And you're like, what the heck? Like this guy's crazy. And he keeps doing it and doing it as much to the point where actually ends up becoming a problem for the mob. So the mob actually ends up having to kill his character off after so long, because he just keeps going crazy like for so long.
Basically, the main reason why he was killed off is so he killed off someone who was made, which means that they were already part of the mob family.
Okay.
And because he killed off someone who was made, it was like this real long play, because he's full Italian, unlike Ray Liotta's character and Robert De Niro's character. Because Joe Pesci in the movie is full Italian, so they were telling him he was about to be made, and they're all celebrating and everything. And then right as he was about to be made, they whacked him off, basically because he had killed off someone who was already made when he himself wasn't. So that was the whole reason why they whacked him off, because they didn't care about him whacking off other people, but they cared about him whacking off someone who was part of the mob family.
Okay. I like how they kind of explain how like when somebody gets whacked, like it's not always like some vicious attack where they're just coming after you. Like they'll be friends with you. They'll treat you like family. They'll take you out to dinner, and then when you least suspect it, boom, you're just gone. So like it's just kind of interesting that way.
Like one of the ending scenes with Ray Liotta's wife, and if she walks into that store, that they're gonna kill her.
Right. Yeah.
And
so
she knows it too, and so she leaves, because that was what we've saw from like after the Lufthansa thing, where my parents were actually saying, "Oh, I remember when that was in the news."
Oh, really?
And yeah, and because of that heist, he ended up whacking off everyone, because he told all these people, "Don't spend your money just yet.
Right.
Hold it off," and no one was listening to him. So he basically was like, "Oh, I guess I got to kill everyone off now."
Yeah, right. Because like you see the guy like buy some kind of like flashy pink car, and then someone else buys like a cashmere fur coat or something, So they're spending way too much money. They're going to draw too much attention on them. So they have to start killing them off. Yeah.
Because they had the note of something too, that only people that end up going to jail are as if they want to be there.
Yeah.
Like at the early goes, oh, that guy doesn't want to be with his wife right now, so that's why he's in jail. And that's why he got, like, only ones that go to jail are the ones who want to be caught at the beginning. So it's kind of funny just going forward and just all of these, like, the ways that they can get out of jail, the way that they could pay people off, the way that even like at the beginning when they were like, "Oh, you popped your cherry," like him going to court.
Yep, exactly. Yep, and actually, a little fun fact about the Lufthansa heist: that's actually still an open investigation to this day. Mm-hmm. Like it is yet to be solved, which is like pretty crazy, I think. But yeah, so they just added that into the movie because it was a real thing that actually happened. So I mean, this whole entire story is a true story. Obviously, some things are a little exaggerated, but I mean, basically, it's pretty close to the real events that actually happened. So
yeah,
just crazy that all these things actually happened. Like just like some pretty unbelievable things that they got away with for so long. Like I mean,
sometimes truth is crazier than fiction.
Yep, exactly. because some of them ended up going to jail, but they always found a way out, and they found a way to just go back to what they were doing, their life of like drugs and like crime with the money, whatever they can do to just get as much money as they can. And then also too, I found it kind of funny that it's almost like a mob thing. I kind of feel like that, like you get married, but you always have to have a mistress on the side. It's almost like a mob thing. And so you see Ray Liotta with his mistress, and they're doing all the cocaine and everything, just getting high all the time. But then his wife finds out. But I mean, I kind of feel like she kind of thinks that she has no way out, so she just has to make the best of just being with them. Like, because if she ever leaves and she knows so much about the mob, maybe they're gonna kill her. I don't know.
Well, in the thing too, when it was her voiceover, she was going, "But I'm still attracted to him," kind of thing. So I think it
Yeah,
was still that she was staying out of love and attraction to him, and like her herself, like at the very end of the movie, you see her taking a bump, and you see her involved in the some of the dealings that he was doing with this cocaine. So she was just as much in it as he was.
yeah, right.
Which
Yeah.
goes to like that babysitter that they had, like Luis, because they
Uh,
tell her, "Don't use the home phone.
oh
Go
yeah,
use,"
right.
and she doesn't listen, and that's basically how they get caught, is because they have that basically confession over uh, the phone of
Yep.
her saying where she was going to be, how she's selling the drugs, all of that. And so I just find it funny that you have these two characters of Jimmy and then you have Henry, and they were like, "Don't do this." And then people don't listen to them, and then bad things happen.
Yep. Exactly. Yeah. Like the babysitter didn't really care. She's like, whatever. I'm just gonna do
Yeah.
this. Yep. And yeah. And yeah. But for me, I love all the food in this movie. There, like, it just makes me like super hungry watching this because they're always eating super, uh, really high quality Italian food. A lot of them that they like to cook. They make a lot of it from scratch. You even see the scene where they're in prison and they pretty much run the whole entire prison, and they get all the best food, and they're just cooking all the food in there. You
They're
see,
like, "Oh, I brought you your lobster."
yeah, right. And then you see Paulie with the onions, and he's like cutting them super thin, and like talking about how he cooks them with the oil and all that stuff. So he has his own recipe that he's not going to give up. So like basically that just shows you that pretty much that they must have bribed everybody in the place to just do whatever they want. So
Yep.
yep.
Which is why, which brings back later in the when he's in jail because he's caught for with his babysitter, that he was like, "You have to get me out of here because I can be offed. It might even be easier for them to off me in jail, so you have to get me out of here," to his
Yep.
wife. So that just it's bringing that back in that they also control the jails.
Yep, exactly. And even that last scene, going back to last scene with the helicopter, you see him basically cooking what he thinks might even be his last meal. So so like I just like the all the Italian accents where he's like, I was gonna make the baked ziti with the garlic bread and the sausage. I was gonna make it all, but then you see that he can't stay there. He has so much anxiety and also so many things to try and wrap up all these loose ends that he's like trying to go and just finish everything.
And a
So
busy day.
yep. So he has his brother just sitting there, just like stirring the sauce. So yep. But then eventually he gets to go back and finish his meal. But I mean, it's almost his last meal. But then like on the end of this movie, just kind of blows my mind because like he just ends up ratting on everybody in order to stay out of jail. So like he pretty much gives up Robert De Niro, he gives up Paulie, he gives up everybody, and then he gets
And I
put into
think it
the
was
witness
more so
protection.
he wouldn't be. I think it was not for him to be in jail because he's been in jail before. I
Right.
think it was more of him just not wanting to die. And he
Right.
knew that if like he was in jail, he was going to die because he went against Polly to do that like secret cocaine thing on the side. And that's what broke his relationship with Polly because with the mob goes anything since Polly was the head of it, anything that they did, Polly was supposed to get a cut of it. Polly didn't get a cut of that cocaine money that he was doing that whole
Right.
time. Jimmy knew about it, Tommy knew about it because he brought them in, but Polly didn't know about it.
Right.
And so he was like, "I'm going to die." And that was pretty much why he went in, because he knew too that if that if Polly didn't kill him, Jimmy might have, because Jimmy was a part of this side thing with him, that Jimmy might off him to save himself from Polly as well, just in case he might rat him out.
Yep. Yeah, and in this movie too, Paulie pretty much treats him like a son. So for him to turn his back on him, it's just like a huge a betrayal to him. And because you see the part where he's at his lowest, the low, and he doesn't have any money left, he just hands him just a couple $1,000 and just tells him to just go and just hide out with this money. But like even when he was a teenager, like he really had a lot of respect for Henry, and just treated him like a son from the time he was a teenager all the way up until that time that he gets betrayed by him. And then after that, like he knows that Henry knows that like he's pretty much gonna die, so he has to get as far away from them as he possibly can. And I think that really his only alternative is to go into the witness protection program, which he does at the end. So.
And I think, too, growing up in the mob is the reason why he betrayed on them. Because even if he didn't betray, just for, like, doing that and not giving Polly the cut of that side thing that he was doing, he knew that it didn't matter how much Polly loved him or how much Polly treated him as a son. Polly would kill him.
Right.
Because he didn't pay him money. Part of that, give him a cut of it.
Yep.
So growing up in that, he knew that his only option was to rat and go into witness protection for him to survive. So I think loyalty only goes so far with these people in the mob. Like, look what they did to Tommy. Even though Tommy offed one of the people who were made, but Tommy was part of that mob family on like the side in the same way that Henry and Jimmy were. But they didn't care. They still offed him. All the people that Jimmy offed, who was always part of through the beginning of the movie. So the loyalty only goes so far.
Yep, exactly. And you see Henry having all these side deals. Like I guess he has some people in Pittsburgh or like wherever he's going to, and he's selling the guns on the side, because you have the scene where he brings all the guns over to Robert De Niro. He's like, "What am I supposed to do with these? These don't fit. They're not going to work. I mean, come on, get out of here." And then so he just takes them over to the Pittsburgh guys, and they're happy to have them. So he just has all these side deals, and he's not giving anyone a cut. Yep, you're right.
And even his joke there, he's like, "I bought these guns for Jimmy, but I know he's not going to want them." Goes, "But I'm bringing them to him anyways." And it was just like between the internal monologue and then what was actually happening, it was all pretty funny. So.
Yeah. And for me, I really like how they did the narration of the movie, because like one thing like I always miss from a book to a movie, that usually in a book you can really get an inner dialogue of what the main characters are actually thinking. You get some of that kind of inside stuff, but that doesn't always translate to a movie. But in this, you have Ray Liotta moderating from pretty much the whole way through, so you get a lot of his thoughts and the things that he's thinking, and like all the anxiety, just kind of plays it up a lot more, like when he's happy, when he's sad, when he has anxiety, all of that. Yeah.
Or even at going back to the end, because I even wrote it down, like it was easy for them to disappear. Goes, the house was in his mother-in-law's name, cars were in his wife's name, social security card and licenses were phony, never voted, never paid taxes, the birth certificate and the rest sheet is all you'd have to know that he was alive.
Yep. Exactly. Yep. So like it's pretty easy for him to just disappear. Yep. Yeah. So but I wanted to just kind of get into the three main actors of the movie. So you have Robert De Niro, you have Joe Pesci, and you have Ray Liotta. And I've actually realized that I have a lot of blind spots with these three actors. That I'm probably going to be doing some episodes soon about a lot of these different movies, because for Robert De Niro, so I'll list all the movies of his that are big that I actually haven't seen. So you have Cape Fear, haven't seen it. Heat, haven't seen it. The Untouchables, and The King of Comedy, The Deer Hunter, The Godfather Part 2, Taxi Driver, Raging Bull, Mean Streets. So I haven't seen any of those. Like really, the only movies of Robert De Niro that I've seen Meet the Parents. I've seen the Joker, and then I've seen a Casino, because about 5 or 6 years ago, I remember that I had the opportunity to either watch Casino or to watch Goodfellas, and for some reason I chose Casino for whatever reason, and so I watched Casino, which now looking back on it, I think Goodfellas is a little bit of a better movie, but I did really like Casino a lot. Both of them are movies that have Joe Pesci at his most craziest. Like he's just super crazy in Goodfellas. Like he's almost even crazier in Casinos. I mean, you just see him going off the deep end there, and Casinos really focuses mostly on Joe Pesci. Like it's pretty much all about his character in it. So for anyone who hasn't seen it, I would definitely recommend it. If you're a fan of Goodfellas, you'll automatically be a fan of Casino. Like it's a really good movie. But do you have any Robert De Niro movies that you really like, or have you seen too many of them?
So I picked two.
Okay.
So one is your Blind Spot, The Godfather Part 2.
Okay.
Robert De Niro was a very, very attractive man in his younger days. Like, and you look at him now, like he's an older man, but you go and watch that movie and you're like, wait, that's Robert De Niro? Wow, he's very attractive. And and as good as Godfather Part 1 is, Part 2 is just even better. And definitely highly recommend seeing Godfather Part 2 if that's your blind spots.
Yeah, I've seen Godfather Part 1, but I haven't seen Part 2, so that's high on my list to watch. So.
And then the other one that I like is now going into his older days is Silver Linings Playbook.
Oh yeah,
with Jennifer Lawrence. Yeah, he was the dad, and kind of just his neuroses with gambling and the Eagles and stuff like that.
Yep.
And even though like his son is mentally ill, but then like his son is like pointing out his stuff too, like where he's like, oh, my controller has to be a certain way, or the way that he bets, or all of that, like you need to watch the game with me on this day. But then like he tells his son to go to the game because Robert De Niro is no longer allowed at the Eagles Stadium,
right?
Because he got into a fight like years ago, and so he sends his son to the game, but his son's main phrase is Excelsior,
right.
And that's written on this New York City like plate, and they were playing the Giants kind of thing, and the Giants win, and so Robert De Niro's character loses out a lot of money on that. And so Jennifer Lawrence kind of points that out to him, goes, you're mad at him for doing this whole dance thing with me, but you send him where the one that says Excelsior, all this stuff. They obviously they say it a lot better than the way I'm explaining it. Right. But I love that movie. Goes in Jennifer Lawrence, well-deserved Oscar for her.
Yep. Yeah, I would agree. I actually have seen Silver Linings Playbook. That's a really good movie. Like I was surprised by the end of it. Like it's one of those movies that I wasn't too sure about going in, but I was very surprised when I saw it. I'm like that was actually really good. So yeah. And then you have Joe Pesci, and so Joe Pesci, he hasn't been in quite as many things, but he's been in The Irishman, which I still need to see. I haven't seen that. He's been.
I haven't seen it either. But funny, like side note, Robert De Niro is an Italian man. He plays an Irishman in this movie. He plays an Irishman in The Irishman. So Scorsese loves making Robert De Niro Irish.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, and then also for Joe Pesci, you have Home Alone that I've seen more times than you can count. That's why it's on the logo for the show, because it's a movie that I've seen more than any other movie that exists, and so that's like whatever the opposite of a blind spot would be. And then I have the little tears in the blind spots that show the movies that I haven't seen. So I've seen Home Alone. I can almost quote the entire movie from start to finish. So definitely love him in that one. He's in almost all the Lethal Weapon movies. I think the first time he shows up is in Lethal Weapon 2, and then he's pretty much in all the Lethal Weapons after that. So I have seen Lethal Weapon 2. I haven't seen any Lethal Weapons past that though. I've seen Lethal Weapon 1 and 2, so I've seen those. He's in the movie Gone Fishing, which actually my wife had me watch that about a year ago. I actually really liked it. One of the few comedies Joe Pesci does, and he has this kind of like accent. He almost plays like someone who like kind of has a mentality of a child. Almost he's like, "We're going fishing, Gus. We're going fishing. Let's go." And so like just kind of like a goofy movie, but it's just him and Danny Glover. They go on this big fishing trip and just basically like hijinks ensue. Pretty much is basically what it is. And then you have Eight Heads in a Duffel Bag. You have Casino, obviously. You have My Cousin Vinny, and then he's also in Raging Bull. I mentioned I've seen Casino, but I have not seen any of those other ones that I listed. But are there any Joe Pesci movies that stand out for you?
My Cousin Vinny.
Okay.
Like you can quote Home Alone. I can quote My Cousin Vinny,
Okay.
and then also My Big Fat Greek Wedding. Those are the two that
Okay.
I probably have seen the most
Nice.
of. But and also again, Marissa Tomei 100% deserved that Oscar.
Oh
in
yeah.
it. So you have Joe Pesci and Marissa Tomei in it, and one of my favorite scenes from that movie is he's about to go deer hunting. And then so Marissa Tomei's character is like, "You're gonna shoot a deer?" And then he kind of like he asks like, "Is his pants okay?" Joe Pesci does, and then she kind of like just opens the door because she's in the bathroom, opens the door back in and goes, "Imagine you're a deer. You find a little spring in the forest. You put your deer lips to the cool, clear water. Bam! A fucking bullet rips off part of your head. Your brain is laying on the ground in little bloody pieces. Now I ask you, would you give a fuck what kind of pants the son of a bitch who shot you was wearing?"
Right. Yeah.
And that is my favorite line of the
Sounds
whole
like
movie.
classic Joe Pesci for sure. Yep. Yep. Yeah, and then you also have Ray Liotta. So I think this is well for sure. Goodfellas is probably the biggest movie Ray Liotta's ever done. Like because he's obviously the star of Goodfellas, but he's been in a few movies. He's been in Field of Dreams. He shows up as Shoeless Joe Jackson. He's been in the second Sin City, A Dame to Kill For. He was in Copland. He was in the movie Blow. He's even in A Marriage Story. He pops up as one of the lawyers in that movie with Adam Driver and Scarlett Johansson, which that movie was a powerful movie, Marriage Story. And then he's also shows up in Smoking Aces, and then recently he even popped up in the Adam Sandler movie Hubie Halloween. He's like one of the like bullies that kind of bullies him in that movie, which I thought was kind of funny. Adam Sandler likes to have these actors pop up, like he has Jack Nicholson in one, he has Al Pacino in another movie. Like it's just crazy. but probably, I mean, out of all of those, I probably have to go with Field of Dreams. That's probably one, because I've seen Marriage Story, but I've not seen any of the other ones I mentioned besides Hubie Halloween. I did see that one, but he was just great as Shoeless Joe. So I feel the Dreams is actually one of those movies I need to probably watch again, because I probably haven't seen it since
I haven't seen him forever.
Like mid 90s probably. So
and I think he's also, even though I haven't seen it, I think he's in the second Field of Dreams movie too. Because I was looking on IMDb and I saw that he was on there, and I was like, I didn't know there was a second movie.
No, I totally forgot about that. Yeah, that they made a second one. But yeah. So for me, I was just gonna just go through some fun facts that came across about the movie here. Let me see. So in the movie, so Martin Scorsese, he actually put both of his parents in the movie. So his mother Catherine actually plays Joe Pesci's mom in the movie. So that's actually
that's his mom. Oh wow.
Yeah. Yeah, so that's Martin Scorsese's mom, and then Martin Scorsese's dad is actually Ray Liotta's a partner when he's in prison. That says like, don't put too many onions in the sauce, like the guy that's like saying that to him. So yeah, that's Martin Scorsese's dad.
Because he put 3 onions in, but only put 2 cans of tomato sauce.
Yeah, right. Which is like okay, but and then also let's see. Oh, so there's a couple of Henry Hill's real life crimes that actually weren't depicted in the movie because he had so many crimes they didn't have enough room to even put all of them in the movie. He has a famous one actually that they actually made an ESPN 30 for 30 about. That was so back in the 70s he had a scandal involving Boston College, and it was a point shaving scandal where he made all these bets on the games, and he paid people off to shave off points, make it seem like players didn't score as many points as they actually did. So he actually made money off of doing that. So
Wow.
Yeah. So and then also too, there's a big heist that's so there's a story where Henry Hill actually takes out the big cosmetic mogul Estee Lauder. So he takes her out to dinner while all of his buddies go back to her place and actually robbed her, and they stole over $1 million worth of goods from her home. So it's another crazy story. So yeah. So he just has so many crimes that he's committed.
I guess Scorsese didn't want to make the 3-hour movie yet because
right.
he made it for Irishman, which I've only seen parts of it because my dad watched it. And so like it was like I went in and I watched a little and then I left and then watched a little more. And it was so it's the same with that and Sopranos, which probably is my biggest TV blind spot. I probably have seen every episode out of order because my dad will watch it over and over and over and over again. And my
Like
dad's retired now, so like I'll come in and be like, "You watching Sopranos again?"
Yep. Yeah.
So,
That's one of my wife's favorite shows. And we started watching it. We watched the first season, so I have seen the first season. But after that, we just kind of like got into watching some other stuff. But it's one of the shows that I heard gets even better after the first season. So it's definitely one that I want to go back to. Definitely for sure. But just a couple other facts about the movie. So actually, Tom Cruise and Madonna, believe it or not, were originally discussed to play the part of Ray Liotta and his wife. So like imagine having Tom Cruise and Madonna in those roles. That'd be
I don't think it would have worked as well.
No, like I don't really think so because
they don't have that, like, even though his wife is Jewish, Madonna doesn't really have that like that look.
Yeah,
although
right.
she did have that look in A League of Their Own. So if she did what she looked like in A League of Their Own, then I can see her possibly being it. But Tom Cruise does not look Irish and does not look Italian. Like,
no, he doesn't look like either one. Yeah,
he doesn't look like either one, so it wouldn't work out. Because like Ray Liotta, at least he looks Italian, so like he played the part.
Yep, right. Yeah. So and then also too Ray Liotta actually passed on another role to have the leading role in Goodfellas. He's actually up for the role of Harvey Dent in the 1989 Batman movie. So
oh wow,
yeah, so that could have been a totally different thing. But I'm actually glad that they had his name it's escaping me. The one that played Lando Calrissian, his name's escaping me, but
Lando.
Yeah, he was the original Harvey Dent for the 1989 Batman.
Oh, Billy D. Williams.
Yeah, Billy D. Williams. Yep. So like he was an awesome Harvey Dent. So like I'm totally happy with the choice they made. So
that's one of my blind spots.
Oh yeah. Oh man, you haven't seen Batman 1989? That's a huge blind spot. You gotta get on that one.
That was 89 is 5 years before I was born. So
well, it's definitely one to go back and watch for sure because like Michael Keaton just kills it in that role. Jack Nicholson as a Joker. It's just iconic. So yep. But and then yeah. So and then another one is only 5 murders actually take place on screen during the movie. There's a whole lot more than that, but actually on screen it only shows 5. So yeah, that. And then also the whole famous Joe Pesci scene, where he says like, "You think I'm funny? I'm funny how? How am I funny? That whole scene was just totally improvised. So like it wasn't even in the script. You just improvised the whole entire thing. So that's pretty good acting to just
Oh,
improvise
it's one of my
that.
favorite scenes of the movie because at the you have Joe Pesci telling a story
Yep.
and everyone's laughing and like Joe Pesci's living in the laughter.
Yep.
And then you have Ray Liotta's character say, "You're a funny guy."
Yep.
And then you have Joe Pesci, which you see later throughout the whole movie as like a really crazy, violent person. It's like, funny how? And then like he's
Yeah.
taking out his gun and all of that. And then you see Ray Liotta's character pretty much Henry going, wait, is he serious? Not. And then he's like, oh, he basically goes, you're breaking my balls here. And then was like,
Yeah,
oh,
right.
you almost fell for it. And then you
What else?
have
You
the
see this
whole,
guy? Yeah.
yeah. And then you have the continuing of, you're a funny guy, like throughout the whole scene, even when he's doing something like awful to someone
Yeah,
else
right.
or like all that. Like, then they're just playing. It's like they're giving each other shit. Where he
Yep.
continues like, "Oh, you're a really funny guy," and like it was like, "Oh, that joke, like I'm gonna shake you now," kind of thing.
Yep.
So it went from something of, "Oh no, is Henry gonna be okay?" to now they're just like you could tell that they're just playing with each other.
Yep, exactly. Yeah, so I kind of felt like that a review for Goodfellas wouldn't be complete without at least mentioning that scene, because that's going to be one of the most iconic scenes in like cinema history, pretty much. So, yeah, but
I still think that iconic one is him with the car and the anxiety and the helicopter because that's the one
that
you
is
see.
true.
I think, but yeah, definitely the scene of like you're a funny guy is definitely
Yeah.
an iconic one too.
Yep. Yeah. So, pretty much the only other thing that I wanted to mention is that I wanted to mention the music in this too. The music's it it's just perfect. Like I feel like it just fits like every single moment. Like you have him playing like songs like "The Sunshine of Your Love" by Cream. You have him playing "Rags to Riches" when he's a kid, kind of like when he's making all his money, and then you have him playing the song "Life Is But a Dream" by the Harp Tone. So there's just so many or so much music, and I feel like with the director like Martin Scorsese, I kind of feel like he took special care to make sure that he had everything lined up just perfectly, and that includes the music. Like I feel like that's something that like him and his composer probably just decided on together. I don't know for sure, but I kind of feel like that's just the kind of director he is, because Scorsese always puts like so much care in all of his movies, even down to the little details. So.
And the music works so well that you don't even really even notice it. And I think that's one of those moments where you can tell that a score is doing its job because it's not supposed to overshadow the movie. It's supposed to go along with the movie, and if it wasn't there, the movie would be completely different. But with it being there, you don't even notice it. It just works so perfectly.
Yep, exactly. It just kind of blends into like
Mhm.
everything that's happening in the movie. Yep. Yeah. So that's pretty much all my thoughts on Goodfellas. I always like to end things off with giving it a score out of 10. I would always like to rank all my movies out of 10. So on a scale of 1 to 10, I can't really say that it's an absolutely perfect movie, but I'd probably give it a 9 out of 10. So that's for me. But what would you give it on a scale of
See,
1 to 10?
I hate ranking movies
Right.
because
I kind of put you on the spot, but
I'm so bad about it. I do this with books all the time. I'm like, oh, if I like it, I'm giving it a 5 out of 5. If I like the movie, I'm giving it a 5 out of 5 kind of thing. But I guess yeah, to be safe, I'll do the same 9 out of 10.
all right, sounds good. Yeah, because like for me, I just feel like 10 is just reserved for like those like absolutely perfect movies, which I probably only given maybe like 3, maybe 4 movies in my whole life. A 10 out of 10. So I mean, having a 9 is just like right up there with like some of my favorite movies of all time. So for my first time watching it, like I definitely loved Goodfellas. I thought it was an amazing movie. So all the hype is definitely real. So yeah, if you haven't seen the movie Goodfellas and you're watching this, like get on that. You got to go see Goodfellas, because it's like one of the like best like mob gangster like thriller type movies, because I kind of call it a thriller, just because of how much anxiety you have throughout this movie. So I just kind of feel like you're on this ride of like total anxiety of like what's going to happen next, who's going to die next, what's going to happen to these characters. You're just like you're like having an anxiety attack, at least me. So
And it makes the movie, because I think it's around 2.5 hours is where it lands at. It makes it go by quickly. You
it
don't
does, yeah,
realize the length.
yeah. For me, it seemed a little long because how I had to watch it is I recorded it off a TV, so I had all these commercials in between, and just like commercials. I got to fast forward these commercials. So like definitely on my next watch, I'm going to make sure that I either buy the movie or I rent it or something with zero commercials, because that did make it feel a little long, but that had nothing to do with the movie itself, because I think that if I watched it without commercials, it would have flown by. So yep. But yeah, so that's our review of the movie Goodfellas. So I have been Jordan, movie hero Anderson, and you've been Sol Govin. So Sol, where can the people find you?
You can find me at Sol Govin on Twitter, and you can find me at sol.k.govin on Instagram. I also have a show called Soul Talk here on the Media Sweaties Network. Go check that out. It's me and a friend just talking about things that we recently watched and read, and just going through cool things that we like to just tell people about and recommend. This episode 2 just dropped, and it's with my really good friend from college, Callie. I have to keep remembering to call her Callie because that's her nickname. I call her by, as she jokes, her government name, Kalandra. But she goes by Callie like all over the internet. But yeah, so go check that out.
Yeah, and Soul Talk definitely one. Whenever I watch it, I always have to come with it, like with a pencil and some paper. Got to write down all the recommendations, you know. So yeah, there's definitely some always good recommendations there. For me, so where the movie hero comes from, I have a second channel that's called Movie Hero, and so you can find me over there. We have a show going on currently. It's called Tier Ranker Fights, where we rank things on a tier ranker scale. I kind of mentioned it a little earlier. We rank some of our favorite desserts, but we done one ranking our favorite movie series of all time. We've done our favorite video games, and then I think coming up we're going to do some music, like our favorite albums, things like that. So we cover a pretty wide range on that. And then you can find me on Facebook. That's the main social media that I use. So if you go to facebook.com/Jordan Anderson 21, you can find me there. And also you can find me as a moderator in the Media Sweaties Facebook group. So I'm always putting up a lot of different polls, and we just post about all the people that are connected to the movie trivia schmodown world and everything that they're doing online. We just inform all the people about what's going on. So yeah. So for Blindspots, for Saul and for Jordan, we'll see you next week.
Bye, everyone.